Agriculture, as the name suggests, has been a key element of the African civilization, beginning with the early settlers of the continent. It is a continent with just over 1.2 billion people. For most landlocked countries such as Malawi, life has always allied itself with the cultivation of diverse crops ranging from grain and plantations. Nonetheless, drastic climate change for the past decades has contested the lives of farmers. The various human activities, such as deforestation, charcoal production, poor farming practices, and industrialization, have also played their cards to the loss of soil fertility. In Malawi, maize is the most known staple food. Maize is cultivated across all highlands and lower lands as annual cereal crop. Through a timeline, the maize yield has followed a fading pattern in the country's agricultural industry sporadically.
In the past, Malawi used to be a breadbasket in southern Africa.
Nonetheless, inconsistency in maize yields has as well outraged agricultural industry frequently. The Sustainable Development Goals 2 and 13 requires a nation involvement to achieve zero hunger and engage climate action. The Millennium Goals 1 and 7 have always advocated the eradication of extreme poverty, hunger, and environmental sustainability collaboratively. The Malawi Growth Development Strategy 3, 2017 to 2022 prioritizes agriculture and food security. The Malawi Vision 2063 provides a framework for enhanced agricultural productivity and commercialization. Will the future of agriculture for Malawi remain vulnerable? Is Malawi's agricultural industry ready to move forward, taking innovations on another level? The government, the agricultural NGOs, scientists, and experts in conservation agriculture are consistently collaborating in an attempt to develop innovations and solutions to combat climate change and its negative effects. The Sorghum Productivity and Improvement Project in Malawi is one innovative agricultural project focused on production of improved varieties and improvement of soil fertility in response to climate change and the impacts such as drought, hunger, and soil reliance on maize production.
Just to give a little background to this work, the proposal was mooted in Morocco, where we had a science week under the One Planet Fellowship, under which I am one of the laureate candidates for the inaugural cohort that was actually recruited in 2019. And so that's where the crafting of the ideas that we are working with the farmers was done. And then for the work to be rolled out on farm, I had to send the proposal to the African Plant Nutrition Institute during a call for proposals for phosphorus award. It's an award for the African scientists working on improving the productivity of crops, like for example the sorghum crop, but also understanding the dynamics of phosphorus in such farming systems. So when I submitted the proposal, it was one of the 5 proposals that was awarded the Phosphorus Award. I have colleagues in Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, who won this prestigious award, the Phosphorus Award. It was awarded in 2020.
As a global challenge, climate change affects farmers every year as life depends on climate and weather patterns.
I'm Christopher Midian, one of the extension workers in Lunsu EPA, Blantyre District Agriculture Office in the Blantyre ADT. Issues of climate change were basically experienced from the early 2000s, as we're tickling around 2014 to 2015. We experienced heavy rainfall that actually resulted in flooding in most areas. And as we are drawing close to 2015-2016, we experienced a dry spell, which actually affected the agriculture industry in terms of agriculture productivity of most crops in this part of the Blantyre, as well as in most parts of the country. Basically, we can say that human activities have actually contributed to the change. Wanton cutting down of trees, charcoal burning, poor agricultural practices like failure to incorporate the crop residues, and also industrial activities.
Access to adequate food has become a challenge to many households due to low productivity of crops and reliance on one crop. Wye Village and other communities in the southwestern part of Lunsu Township and Blantyre experiences dry spells every year, which makes agricultural life unbearable and very challenging. Chikwawa District is one of the districts that keep facing the wrath of climate change over the decade. It is a lowland area with high temperatures. Year by year, floods are highly anticipated. As a result of its topography and terrain, maize and other crops often fail to thrive in its harsh climates. From these precedences, farmers have acquired good knowledge and lessons pertaining to climate change in their communities as the main cause, which is common in many districts of Malawi. In the escalating crisis of climate change in Malawi,
one of the chief scientists at Vumbwe Agricultural Research Station under the Ministry of Agriculture,
Dr. Austin Tentani Phiri,
one among the 44 climate change laureate candidates in the 2019 inaugural cohort under One Planet Fellowship implemented by the African Women in Agricultural Research and Development Award,
came up with the project Sorghum Productivity Improvement in Malawi.
We have a set of treatments. Basically, the other treatments to give us the opportunity to compare the performance of one key treatment or intervention, that is growing pigeon pea together with cowpea in rotation with the sorghum crop. And so we have a plot where we have sorghum that has been treated with fertilizer alone, another plot where we've just planted cowpea alone, another plot where we've just planted pigeon pea alone, and then 2 plots where we have intercropped the pigeon pea and the cowpea. But the difference is at harvest time, one of the plots, the biomass is going to be, the biomass of the legumes that is going to be incorporated into the soil, while the other plot is, the legume biomass is not going to be incorporated back to the soil. And then we have added 2 more treatments to include the combination of fertilizer, inorganic fertilizer that is, with manure. And then where we are just applying manure only to the sorghum crop. And so along the way, we are going to evaluate this set of treatments to see how much are we getting in terms of the grain yield for the legumes as well as the sorghum. And then in the rotation sequence, we are going to have different levels of nitrogen as well as phosphorus applied to the sorghum crop after splitting each individual treatment plot. And then so that we get to measure the response of the sorghum to the different levels of either nitrogen and phosphorus when applied to the sorghum crop.
The project is about placing a need to develop farming technologies that can aid in building farmer resilience and enhancing crop productivity in order to assist farmers to adapt to the harsh impacts of climate change. In most cases, it is very challenging to introduce new patterns and traditions to predominant lifestyles. Nonetheless, farmers in Blantyre district were so keen to try out the new ideologies in agriculture. These farmers are working around the clock trying to adapt to the new technologies. As we dived into Wayo village, one farmer, Mr. Davy Ngunguza, shared his story.
I am Davy Ngunguza, Wayo village, Tiekapin, Blantyre. I am a full-time maize farmer. Due to the emergence of droughts, the agricultural experts visited us and advised if we could try other crops. Now we are trying sorghum. This is as a result of climate change that has led us to diversify our farming. We opted for sorghum because it is equally good as maize when it comes to stiff porridge. Sorghum farming is not challenging as maize farming. Once we plant, we take care of the weeds. If we have some fertilizer, we apply and they do well, even though we may encounter dry spells. Sorghum thrive well as compared to maize. As it is, we can notice the difference. With sorghum, we believe we can have a good harvest. Sorghum has the potential to do well. If the government would intensify this crop in other regions to reach out more farmers, hunger can be defeated. In our farming, we use integrated soil fertility management methods. Zimasiyanirana kupang'ono pamene pamachita bwino pamakhala pamene tathira fertilizer ndi manyowa.
Davy and his wife Loda joined the sorghum project after they had seen that maize farming was letting them down. Loda finds sorghum as equally a staple food, and she believes it stands a better chance to thrive the harsh weather and dry environment.
My name is Rhoda Chwindi from Wayo village, Tie Kapeni, Blantyre, Lunzu EPA. As it is the case with climate change, often rains stop abruptly. This situation consequently challenges us to have adequate food in our families. We are also financially affected because we rely much on produce sales to get money. However, due to climate change, things are not adding up. In a week, rains are off. Even though we work very hard in our fields and trust that our produce will help us after the harvest, such is not the case. Our request goes to the Agricultural Department to help us with diverse crops that mature early for us to still get a good harvest.
zimakhoza kutithandiza kuti tipeze chakudya chokwanira chifukwa chakuti zachamwa changu lokudzuwa lafika kunoko mbewu zenizeni zimene tingamathe kuti ndi zakudya msange pali mapira.
Such crops that mature early include sorghum, and from sorghum we are able to make stiff porridge.
Mapira ndoti amadyedwa aso ngati chimanga chimene kuli seula orino sumachedwa kusha.
Other early maturing crops include cowpeas, which stand as food and market crop to support our families. Climate change here in Blantyre has been escalated due to charcoal burning and firewood activities, and this has affected rainfall patterns here.
Sorghum cannot increase soil fertility as a standalone crop. How is sorghum capable to return fertility being a non-leguminous crop? It is certain that some techniques have to be considered. Experts have developed new strategies and cropping systems to retain soil fertility. The systems are based on legume-to-legume intercropping, cereal rotation, and application of combined organic and inorganic fertilizer to sorghum to boost soil fertility and productivity using science of integrating soil fertility management.
Our response to climate change is developing new agricultural technologies or cropping systems which are resilient to climate change. For example, using crops like cowpea and pigeon pea, which are drought tolerant, in rotation with sorghum, which again is drought tolerant. Because in doing so, we are going to work on soil fertility, managing it using the legumes, thereby making the soils more productive when we come in with the sorghum crop in that rotation sequence.
My name is Duncan Impotola from Group Village Mponda, Tiekapeni, Blantyre. As you can see, we have planted sorghum and we have also planted other crops like cowpeas and pigeon peas. At the time of their maturity, they shed off their leaves. At this time, we start preparing our fields to incorporate the biomass. This is likely because sorghum on its own cannot retain fertility. At this time, we till the soils together with the biomass to retain fertility in response to climate change and the frequent droughts in Malawi.
Before every technology is passed on to the general population for use, it has to be tested, tried, and verified scientifically. In the case of the sorghum productivity improvement project, different sites were set in the reputable research stations, namely Kasintula in Chikwawa, Vumbwe in Cholo, and Chitala in Salima districts, under the Department of Agricultural Research Services through the Ministry of Agriculture. To ensure the applicability of the technologies in the local setting, On-site trials were henceforth conducted in the actual geographical localities of Extension Planning Areas, EPA, Mikalango in Chikwawa, Lunzu in Blantyre, and Chinguluwe in Salima. The initiative is supported by the African Plant Nutrition Institute, APNI, through the Phosphorus Fellowship.
Currently, we are in 3 agroecological zones. In Salima, along the lakeshore area, central Malawi. In southern Malawi, we are in Blantyre district, which is a mid-altitude agroecological zone. And down south still in Chikwawa district, we are in a low altitude environment in Chikwawa district. So we have engaged farmers who are working to improve the productivity of the sorghum crop, which is a drought tolerant crop.
The Ministry of Agriculture, through Kasintula Agriculture Research Station, defines the sorghum productivity project to be a significant initiative to Malawi's agricultural industry in the age of climate change.
My name is Dr. Isaac Fandika. I'm the station manager for Kasintula Research Station based in Chikwawa. We have welcomed this project considering that Kasintula Research Station mandate is to conduct research in sorghum and peru millet and in response to climate change. So the coming in of Dr. Austin Phiri with the project on sorghum is within our mandate, so we are answering the mandate of the station. Especially 2020, we have already seen that the rainfall in Chikwawa has been very poor with the impact of climate change. Drought has been a big problem as well as heat, because the main problem is that farmers do not have improved varieties. They don't have good strategies for managing the sorghum. So they're coming in with soil management and integrated soil fertility management program is going to adapt and make farmers resilient to climate change impacts. It's very important that they adopt new methods such as sorghum varieties of high yields and also best agricultural practices in production of sorghum. As we have seen, this project is in promoting the integrated soil fertility management in sorghum. Farmers do not think that proper nutrient or fertility management in sorghum is very important for sorghum productivity. So we are also asking people that one method of adapting to climate change is adopting the integrated soil fertility management. On sorghum, especially sorghum and peru millet, mostly they go together. We can say we need to, the government as well as donors, they need to promote, maybe coming in with funding so that we do much research and dissemination of the technology that are being developed, so that the farmers should adapt and do the research, but if transferred to the farmers, it will be very difficult for the technology to be used. We have seen the government of Malawi, which we are very thankful. They are promoting the program on imports, and they are also considering on improved varieties. Maybe on policy, I think for areas that are affected for drought, like Lower Chile and Palombe and the lakeshore areas, we need really to put much effort that they also include the improved sorghum varieties and also the integrated soil fertility management has to be accompanied by the improved varieties, so that the farmers, they take all the package. Otherwise, if we don't promote that, we can promote these means, but we find that we are not meeting maybe the adaptation of climate change. So That's our plea to the government, that they include the sorghum varieties.
My name is Ellen Samson. I started sorghum farming in 2017 till the present day. When we were told by our agricultural advisors to prepare our fields, we prepared our ridges at 75 centimeters and we planted sorghum at 30 centimeters apart. For us to have such good looking sorghum, we apply manure before planting, and 2 weeks after planting, we apply fertilizers for growth, and later, after 3 weeks, we again apply fertilizers to induce fruiting, and that's why the sorghum looks like this.
My name is Duncan Potola from Group Village Ponda, Tiekapeni Blantyre, Lunzu EPA. When we planted the Pilila variety of sorghum, we found out that it is the best crop that is useful in many ways, like making stiff porridge, sweet beer, and cookies such as bread and biscuits. As a matter of fact, our children no longer go to school on an empty stomach because sorghum is one other reliable source of food.
Learning from the sorghum agronomist, Charles Ntewa, sorghum farming is yielding the confidence of farmers that sorghum production will defeat hunger in Malawi.
I am Charles Ntewa, an agronomist. I am based on small grain crops, which include sorghum and pea millet, as well as finger millet. Sorghum farming is one of the mandates of this station. So our mandate is to do irrigation and small grain crops like sorghum. Our aim is to develop new technologies in sorghum pertaining to climate change issues in drought-prone areas like this. Other crops are failing. So we started promoting sorghum because sorghum withstand drought more than any other cereal crops that has been growing in this Shire Valley or any drought-prone areas. You can see the crop itself. It is rain-fed, but it is still looking green. While if you move around, we find that maize and other crops have completely failed due to drought. Sorghum management is easy if you follow the recommendation. As I said earlier, our aim is to develop the recommendations for farmers.
With the evidence-based results from the different zones where the cropping systems have been introduced and embraced, farmers are enjoying new farming experiences. The farmers are patient and have high expectations that the sorghum will keep doing well, and soon hunger will be the story of the past.
I am Vitu Mpepo, a farmer from Chizinga, TM Gap, Chikwawa. I am Tonex Dixon, agricultural extension worker, Mikalango EPA, Sinja section. Climate change has brought a number of calamities in our family. Talk of hunger and financial challenges. These days we are not getting good harvest as due to climate change. Hunger is always affecting my family and other families in the community. Climate change is happening as a result of careless cutting of trees and environmental degrading activities. We started sorghum farming because sorghum is a drought-tolerant crop. Even though rains may not be faithful, we are very assured of good harvest with sorghum as compared to maize. To my fellow farmers, let us not focus on one crop only. Rather, let us diversify our farming with crops like sorghum. Pilila variety matures early. Within a few months, we are able to harvest and use it at home. As agricultural advisor of this area, we are sensitizing farmers and increasing the awareness, especially on the need for early maturing crops. In this area, we often encounter dry spells and rains are always challenging. Often, rains come early, and in the due course, we experience dry spells. In such situations, crops that have proven to do well include sorghum and millet. We have Pilila 1 sorghum variety which matures early and offers a good harvest. We have been encouraging farmers through demonstration farms and field days just to raise the awareness on the new varieties that are best in the times of drought and dry spells. It would be more delightful if we could reach out more farmers, since we have just started with lead farmers as for this year.
Our story is not ending soon. Sorghum production proves to be the best raw material for most agriculture products, such as instant porridge that offers nutrition value to various age groups and the most malnourished groups. Other products include snacks such as biscuits and many more. With this development, today's farmers have a different story about sorghum than their predecessors.
There is indication that we are going to realize better grain yield for the sorghum crop as well as the legumes. It is promising because we have seen it with our own eyes that the sorghum crop is responding to the interventions that we are applying in order to manage soil fertility under the changing climate.